Blood and silk don't mix, but in the Chicago underworld, they're the only dress code. When the city's most dangerous syndicate boss walked into the Drake Hotel, every woman held her breath. But he didn't look at the runway models. He crossed the ballroom, for the sister everyone threw away. The air in the Gallagher family's Gold Coast penthouse was thick with the scent of hairspray imported French perfume and the sharp underlying metallic tang of nervous sweat. Tonight was the Centennial Gala at the Drake Hotel, an event that on paper was a charitable fundraiser for the city's orphans. In reality, it was the neutral ground where Chicago's most ruthless crime families, corrupt politicians, and elite businessmen brokered truces, laundered reputations, and arranged marriages. Harley Gallagher stood before the gilded floor-to-length mirror in her bedroom, fighting a losing battle with a zipper. She was a large woman, undeniably fat, with soft, generous curves that the high society dressmakers of Michigan Avenue blatantly refused to accommodate. While her younger sister Chloe was draped in custom-fitted backless crimson silk that clung to her size 2 frame. Like a second skin, Harley had been forced to order an emerald green velvet gown from an out-of-state catalogue. It was beautiful, rich in color, but the cut was unforgiving, digging into her ribs and clinging to the swell of her stomach and broad hips. "For God's sake, Bea, suck it in!" her father Thomas Gallagher barked from the hallway. Thomas was a mid-level boss, a man who controlled the docks and the union payoffs, but desperately craved a seat at the high table of the syndicate. His face was flushed, the collar of his tuxedo already looking too tight. "We are walking into a room with the Russo family tonight. I cannot have you looking like a stuffed sausage when I am trying to convince Leonard Russo that our bloodline is worth merging with his." Harley dropped her hands, her face burning. "I didn't ask to come, Dad. You know I prefer to stay home. And let the other families think I'm hiding my eldest daughter like some shameful family secret." Thomas snapped. "You do treat her like a family secret, Daddy." Chloe purred, gliding into the room. She looked like a weapon forged from diamonds and malice. Her blonde hair was pinned up in an immaculate twist, her cheekbones sharp enough to cut glass. She looked Harley up and down, a cruel, practiced sneer, lifting the corner of her painted lips. "Look at you. Velvet in June. You look like a Victorian couch, Bay. Just stay by the buffet tonight, out of the way. I need Leonard to be looking at me, not distracted by the circus." Harley swallowed the lump in her throat, her hands smoothing down the rich green fabric over her thighs. "I'll stay out of your way, Chloe. I always do." It was the tragic truth of Harley's life. She was the ghost of the Gallagher family, while Chloe was paraded around as the beautiful bait to lure in a powerful alliance. Harley was the hidden workhorse. She possessed a brilliant mathematical mind. For the past 5 years since she dropped out of her accounting degree at Northwestern to protect her father from a federal indictment, Harley had been cooking the Gallagher books. She managed the offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, structured the shell companies in Delaware, and laundered the union kickbacks through legitimate real estate holdings. She was the only reason Thomas Gallagher wasn't sitting in a federal penitentiary. Yet in the ruthless, superficial world of the Mafia, a woman's worth was measured entirely by her waistline and her ability to serve as a beautiful trophy. Her intellect was a mere utility. Her body was a social liability. "Just put on some darker lipstick," Chloe ordered, examining her own flawless reflection in Harley's mirror. "Maybe it will draw attention away from everything else." "Come on, the limousine is downstairs. Judge Henry Caldwell and District Attorney Robert Finch are going to be there tonight. Daddy needs to kiss the ring and I need to secure my future husband." The ride to the Drake Hotel was suffocating. The partition in the stretch, Lincoln, was rolled up, leaving Harley trapped in the back with her father's cigar smoke and her sister's relentless narcissism. Thomas spent the entire ride rehearsing his pitch to Leonard Russo the newly crowned head of the Chicago syndicate. Leonard was a ghost story, whispered in the back rooms of speakeasies and shipping yards. He had taken over the family at 32 after his father was assassinated, brutally purging the ranks of traitors within a single bloody weekend. He was notoriously cold, calculating, and unmarried. Every family in the tri-state area was trying to shove their daughters into his bed, hoping to secure an alliance that came with the protection of his private army. When the limousine pulled up to the glittering entrance of the Drake Hotel, the paparazzi bulbs flashed like lightning. Chloe stepped out first, working the cameras with a practiced, dazzling smile, her crimson dress catching the wind. Thomas followed, adjusting his cufflinks. Harley slid out last, avoiding the cameras, keeping her head down. She felt the heavy, humid Chicago night air settle over her velvet dress, instantly regretting her wardrobe choice. She tugged at the bodice, trying to make herself smaller, a habit she had perfected over 26 years of living in a world that demanded she disappear. But as she walked up the marble steps, a strange electric anticipation settled low in her stomach. Tonight the chessboard was set and the pieces were moving. She just didn't know yet that she was the queen. The grand ballroom of the Drake Hotel was a masterclass in opulent intimidation. 3 massive crystal chandeliers hung from the frescoed ceiling, casting a warm, golden light over the sea of tuxedos and designer gowns. A string quartet played Vivaldi in the corner, though the music was nearly drowned out by the low, dangerous hum of 100 criminals pretending to be gentlemen. Harley immediately retreated to the shadows, securing a spot behind a towering pillar near the terrace doors. From here she had a clear view of the room, without being subjected to the judgmental stares of the outfit wives who clustered together like vultures in diamonds. She watched the power dynamics unfold with the clinical eye of an auditor. She saw Alderman Thomas Tunney laughing with a known loan shark. She spotted Carmine, the bull del Vecchio, slipping an envelope to a police captain by the ice sculpture. And she watched her father Thomas sweating profusely as he tried to maneuver Chloe into the VIP section, cordoned off by heavy velvet ropes. Then the atmosphere in the room shifted. It wasn't a sudden silence, but rather a chilling drop in barometric pressure. The string quartet faltered for a half-second before recovering their tempo. Leonard Rousseau had arrived. He walked into the ballroom flanked by 4 men whose tailored suits couldn't hide the bulk of their shoulder holsters, but Leonard himself required no muscle to project power. He was tall, dressed in a bespoke, midnight blue tuxedo that fit his athletic frame with lethal precision. His hair was dark, neatly styled, but with a slight, untamed wave, and his eyes even from across the room seemed black and piercing. He didn't smile as he accepted a glass of scotch from a trembling waiter. He moved with the slow, deliberate grace of an apex predator inspecting a cage full of mice. Every woman in the room straightened her posture. Chloe practically vibrated with ambition. She grabbed Thomas's arm, her perfectly manicured nails digging into his tuxedo sleeve, and began pulling him toward the center of the room, positioning herself directly in Leonard's inevitable path. Harley watched from her corner, a glass of sparkling water in her hand. She felt a pang of profound isolation. She knew the numbers, she knew the ledgers, she knew the secrets of almost every man in this room, yet to them she was invisible. Or worse, an eyesore. About an hour into the gala, the mingling intensified. Leonard had systematically dismantled 3 different business proposals from older bosses with nothing more than a raised eyebrow and a cold refusal. He looked bored. Chloe, sensing her window of opportunity closing, grew desperate. Harley had made the mistake of leaving her safe corner to get a fresh glass of water from the bar. She was trying to navigate back through the dense crowd, her velvet dress brushing against the expensive silks and chiffons of the other women. As she passed the center of the room, She accidentally stepped on the trailing hem of a silver gown worn by one of the Del Vecchio daughters. "Watch it, cow," the woman hissed, yanking her dress away. Harley kept her head down, whispering an apology. But in her haste to retreat, she bumped squarely into Chloe. Chloe had finally managed to position herself just 10 feet away from Leonard Russo, waiting for him to turn around. The collision caused Chloe to stumble, a splash of her champagne spilling onto her own crimson silk. The ballroom around them suddenly went terrifyingly quiet. The minor commotion had drawn the attention of the surrounding circle, including Leonard, who turned his head to look at the disturbance. Chloe's face contorted into a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. Her grand moment, her perfect entrance into Leonard's line of sight, was ruined by the sister she despised. "Are you completely blind, Harley?" Chloe snapped, her voice echoing in the sudden lull of conversation. "I'm sorry, Chloe. Someone pushed me." "Stop talking," Chloe hissed, stepping forward, her voice carrying across the silent floor. She didn't care who was listening. She wanted to distance herself from Harley as violently as possible to save face. "Look at you, sweating in that cheap velvet, taking up half the aisle. Why did Dad even let you out of the house? You're a humiliating embarrassment." Harley froze, the color draining from her face. Dozens of eyes were on her now. She could hear the muffled snickers from the outfit wives. She saw her father standing a few feet away, rigidly looking at the ceiling, refusing to intervene. "Chloe, please," Harley whispered, tears burning the back of her eyes. "Not here." "Yes, here." Chloe laughed, a high, cruel sound that sliced through the room. She looked around, playing to the audience, pointing a manicured finger at her sister's soft, heavy frame. "You think hiding in the corner makes you invisible? It just makes you look pathetic. Look around, Bea. Look at the women in this room. Then look at yourself." Chloe stepped closer, dropping her voice slightly, but still loud enough for the VIP circle to hear. "Nobody wants you. Nobody is ever going to want you. Go wait in the car before you ruin this family's chances completely." The cruelty hung in the air, toxic and heavy. A tear slipped down Harley's cheek, hot and humiliating. Her heart hammered wildly against her ribs. She wanted the marble floor to open up and swallow her whole. She clutched her small evening bag, turned her head, and prepared to flee toward the exit, accepting her defeat, accepting her place in the shadows. But then a deep, gravelly voice echoed through the terrible silence. "I believe you are standing in my way." The crowd parted like the Red Sea. Leonard Russo stepped forward. Up close, he was even more terrifying. His jawline was sharp, shadowed with a faint stubble, and his dark eyes held a cold, terrifying fury. But that fury wasn't directed at Harley. Chloe's breath hitched. Her cruel smile instantly morphed into a dazzling, seductive beam. She smoothed her hands over her hips, stepping forward to block Harley entirely. "Mr. Russo," she purred, her voice dripping with honey. "I apologize for the disturbance. My sister is terribly clumsy. I'm Chloe Gallagher." "It is an absolute honor to move," Leonard said. It wasn't a request. It was a single flat syllable that carried the weight of a loaded gun. Chloe blinked, her smile faltering. "Excuse me." "You are blocking my view." Leonard stated, his voice devoid of warmth. He didn't even look at Chloe's face. He looked right past her shoulder. Slowly, agonizingly, Chloe stepped to the side, her face flushing crimson, as a ripple of shocked whispers swept through the crowd. Leonard stepped past the gorgeous, trembling golden child of the Gallagher family and stopped directly in front of Harley. Harley stood paralyzed. She was hyperventilating slightly, the velvet dress constricting her chest. She looked up at the towering Mafia boss, expecting him to order her out of his presence, expecting the final crushing blow of the night. She wiped the tear from her cheek, hastily, her hands shaking. Leonard stared down at her. His gaze wasn't filled with the disgust or pity she was used to. His dark eyes roamed over her face.